And we're live. It is Monday, May 31st. Once again, the Live Drive Jive Archive, broadcasting to you from Peking, China. Coming at you like the flash of lightning down the tree of life, from Keter to Hokmah, Bina, straight through the secret knowledge of Da'ath into Chesed, Gebura, Tifereth, Netzach, over to Hod, across into Yesod, and down into Maputh, the material realm. Electrifying your headset with more stimulating talk radio, FM radio, Monday mornings. Turn it on, live at 5. I hope y'all good looking. Sexy people are doing good out in Happy Land this morning, doing well. We have got a industrial trucker here in a big hurry. He's got an 18-wheeler. Let's see, 2 times 5 is 10 plus 2. It's a 12-wheeler. That's a strange amount of wheels on a car, on a vehicle. Let's see what he's gonna do. He's acting like he doesn't know what up. We're back in Lovecraft territory, although the air is a little dank with chemical. I'm adding to it with my tobacco, but the clouds seem decent. We've got cloud coverage that looks like rain. I had thought that I was going to get shaved up this weekend, but it just never happened, man. There's an old taxi cab driver out there hanging out without a shirt on. I didn't know it was warm enough for him to start going belly up, but that's what they do out here. Okay, so life in Beijing. Let me tell you a little bit about it. The taxi cab drivers all kind of hang out in this little intersection here and park their cars along the street. I guess they have some apartments here. Hundreds of them live in this little area right here. And some of the distinguishing characteristics of the taxi cab drivers in Beijing are a paper fan, a cigarette, shirt open, no chest hair though. Asians don't really grow body hair much, and some type of tea thermos, typically a glass jar, like an old glass instant coffee jar, with the brown kind, with a plastic lid on it, and then a homemade koozie, like knit by their wife. That is old style Beijing taxi cab drivers loadout. Some probably decent quality tea leaves that you can just keep throwing hot water on all day long. So a tea thermos. Now, they used to smoke in the cabs when I first got here, and so there would be ashes and cigarette butts all over the interior floorboards of the cabs. But they have since started minimizing they don't allow passengers to smoke anymore, but the taxi cab drivers will still take the occasional smoke break. I'll see them. They won't pick people up if they're smoking though. They'll have the window down. They'll be riding down the road smoking. But they went through just prior to the Olympics, and all the taxi cab drivers, I don't know what happened, but they all switched over to Hyundais, like Hyundai Elantras or something, and they got rid of the old Rattle Traps. So their vehicles used to be these smaller, like Nissan Sentra style type vehicles that really rattled a lot. I remember I got in one where the floorboards were even like rotted out, and it was late one night. I was coming home, I think from Bar Street or something. This was in the early days, like 04, 05, something like that. Hadn't been here very long. And the floorboards on the passenger side had rusted out or whatever. And so when I was jumping in the cab, he said, "Be careful." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I stepped in and just stepped right through the floor, and my foot hit the ground. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" He's like, "Yeah, you got to keep your feet up." And I was like, "Man, this is a Fred Flintstone vehicle here. If we gotta bump start it later or something, then I'll just be able to help out by." Wow, there was a 2x4 in the road just now. I'll be able to help kickstart the vehicle by running. So that was crazy, man. And those things, I remember, man, they caused me a lot of anxiety for safety. And dudes would drive them fast too, man. They'd get going. They'd get that little vehicle going as fast as it could go. And it'd rattle and shake. And the ambient noise from outside the vehicle was just so loud. Gnarly, gnarly. Those were back in the days. Those were back in the days when the taxi cab drivers every time would try to slip you counterfeit money and then argue with you and say that you're the one who gave them the counterfeit money, especially if you had any beer on your breath or anything. If they could detect, if it was late at night and they could figure out that you had been drinking, the first thing they would do is offer to take you to a brothel. So you jump in the car and the first thing they'd say is, "Lady bar, lady bar, lady bar." And I'd be like, I couldn't even figure out what they were saying. I didn't know what a lady bar was. And I was like, "What? What's a lady bar?" You know, I spoke a little Chinese even then. I already had 4 or 5 years of Chinese studies when I first came over here. I'm not the kind of idiot that just shows up in a foreign country without even a little command of the foreign language, which I noticed 90%, 95% of all the expats that I met, they did not speak any Chinese whatsoever. And I was like, "Why are you even in China?" And they're like, "Party time, bro. Going to the lady bars." And I'm like, "What the fuck's a lady bar?" And so I guess turns out, like back then, the RMB would go pretty far. It was quite valuable. You could get a hand job for 20 kwai, which would have, at that time, would have been the equivalent of like $2.75 or something, $2.50. You could get a blow job for 50 kwai, and the whole 9 yards, everything around the block, and a stay at the brothel or whatever with the gal was like 100 kwai, which, you know, back then it was like the equivalent of like $12.50, something like that. So I learned all this in the early days, but I never took them up on the offer. I talked to expats that did it all the time, and I'm, you know, hepatitis, tuberculosis, AIDS. I don't know what they were looking for, but I thought, geez. And they're like, nah, brah, they're all young country girls, you know, 18, 20 years old. And I thought, nah, I'm not going to take my chances. I'll get a girlfriend and stick with that. But then there were the bathhouses where you could spend 15, 20 bucks and spend the whole day like a turtle hanging out in the bathhouse. Now those were much cooler. Some of my wife's family members, uncles or whatever, they like to do that back in the early day. Now that's just a bunch of dudes hanging around naked in the bathhouse. And I went, the first few times I went, I wanted to wear my shorts. I'm like, I don't want to hang out naked with you guys. I'll keep my fucking trunks on, you know, why not? But you would take, basically you just spend the whole day at the spa. It's got a buffet. And I guess they probably like to gamble or something. But then they did have young girls, healthy, young, good-looking girls that would work as masseuses. And so you would go in, you would either have them come to your room or you would go to the massage table and get, you know, like a 2-3 hour massage or something. So that was groovy. Good buffet quality food, all you could eat. Spend the whole day there. They'd drink baijiu and shit and smoke, you know, cigarettes, Chinese party cigarettes. But what else was cool about that? We haven't done that in a long time. I don't know why they don't invite me to that anymore. It seems like a lot of those places got closed down right around the time of the Olympics. They were trying to straighten up their image. What else was cool about those places? Oh, it's just like a water park fantasy, you know, big steam baths, and one table, one area you would go to, they had these like kung fu masters that would give you a wash down with like these loofah gloves, and they would grab you and like give you bone setting and stuff to get your mind out of the gutter. But they would wash like your ass and your whole, but they start with the whole body, but like just scrub the flesh off nearly with this loofah. And then they had like a squirt gun, like a power sprayer. And yeah, so they'd wash you down with like this really fragrant herbal soap and just get you spiffy clean, like everywhere. And then after they washed you down, they'd hose you off. And then after that, then they'd rub your body down with like this Chinese herb that, like, you know, purified and cleansed and like made your skin look exfoliate or like younger or whatever. And so you would sit with that on your body for like 15-20 minutes, and then you'd go back through it again and they'd hose you off again and scrub it all off you, and then apply like another coat of just like cream skin tenderizer. And then yeah, there was like, I don't know, there's like 4 or 5 different treatments you would go through. But at that place, they never hooked me up with the good, pretty young girls. They took them, but they just kind of leave me hanging. And I guess they didn't want me getting in trouble with my wife at the time. Kind of a bummer. I would have been proud to enjoy that service, but it just never happened. What can you do? Probably better off though. You never know what kind of nastiness that might entail in the long run. But yeah, those dudes spent a lot of time there. And there was a report in the paper that those types of establishments the amount of water that they used in a single day was something like mind-blowing. And all the bigwigs spent like, you know, 3-4 days a week there hanging out at the spa. And then they'd spend like, you know, one day at the office acting like they were working for the people. But all that changed when the new guy came in. I guess he kicked out all the old dudes and then just put all his dudes in those places. Which is the way it goes, right? That's the classic saying, here comes the new boss just like the old boss. But they just switch the guard, changing of the guard. I love y'all good looking sexy people out in Happy Land. I hope you stay well. And I have arrived at the yard, so I will see you next time in the abodes of the future. Bye for now.